Today we will talk about selection and placement. The selection of members in an organization is crucial for its competitiveness and the success of job applicants. When an organization wants to stay competitive in the market, it must carefully consider the individuals it hires. The decisions made in this process have a direct impact on the organization's ability to compete effectively. It is essential for the organization to ensure that the selection decisions align with the best interests of the company and are fair to all parties involved. If the decisions are not thoughtfully made, it can have negative consequences for the organization's competitiveness. Hiring the wrong individuals can result in inefficiencies, decreased productivity, and a lack of innovation within the company. On the other hand, selecting the right employees who possess the necessary qualifications, skills, and experience can greatly contribute to the organization's success. To choose the best employees, the organization needs to establish criteria for selection. These criteria should be based on the job requirements, including responsibilities, duties, and necessary qualifications. Different selection methods such as simulations, personality tests, and interviews can be employed to assess the candidate's ability to perform the job effectively. It is important to note that organizations that prioritize competition through their workforce must be cautious in their selection process. Hiring people who are aligned with the organization's goals and values can significantly enhance its competitive advantage. When individuals are well suited to their roles and motivated to contribute to the organization's success, it creates a positive work environment and fosters innovation and productivity. Selection method standards. Personnel selection is the process by which companies decide who will or will not be allowed into the organizations. Several generic standards should be met in any selection process. We will focus on 5 methods: 1. Reliability, 2. Validity, 3. Generalizability, 4. Utility, and 5. Legality. The first 4 standards build off each other in the sense that the preceding standard is often necessary but not sufficient for the one that follows. This is less applicable to legal standards. However, a thorough understanding of the first 4 standards helps us understand the rationale underlying many legal standards. We talk about each method in the following slides. Reliability is an important aspect when it comes to measuring instruments or performance measures. It refers to the consistency and stability of the results obtained from using the instrument or measure. In other words, reliability assesses the extent to which an instrument provides stable and consistent results over time. One way to evaluate reliability is through test-retest reliability. This involves administering the same test or measure to a group of individuals on 2 separate occasions. The scores obtained from the first administration, time 1, are then compared to the scores from the second administration, time 2, to assess the stability of the measure over time. If the scores are highly correlated, it indicates that the instrument is reliable because it consistently produces similar results. For example, let's say a company wants to measure the performance characteristics of its employees using a specific test. They administer the test to the employees and then repeat the test after a certain period, such as a week or a few months. By comparing the scores from the 2 administrations, the company can determine if the test provides consistent and reliable results. If the scores are consistent and show a strong correlation, it indicates that the measure is reliable. The correlation coefficient is commonly used to assess the strength of the relationship between 2 sets of numbers, such as the scores obtained from the test-retest reliability evaluation. The correlation coefficient ranges from 1.0 to plus 1.0. A value of plus 1.0 indicates a perfect positive correlation, meaning that as one set of numbers increases, the other set also increases. A value of 1.0 indicates a perfect negative correlation, where one set of numbers increases while the other decreases. A correlation of 0.0 indicates no linear relationship between the two sets of numbers. Decision-making relies heavily on the quality of the measurement used. When different measures are employed, they can yield different results, leading to varying assessments or conclusions. For instance, if we measure the efficiency of graduates based on their course grades over the last 5 years of study or their scores on the SAT, Scholastic Assessment Test, we may obtain different assessments for each measure. In order to make informed decisions, it is crucial for a company to select the most reliable measure that provides accurate and consistent results. Regardless of the specific characteristic being measured, highly reliable measures are desired. Reliability ensures that the measurement is dependable and capable of producing consistent outcomes over time. By using reliable measures, organizations can enhance the accuracy and consistency of their decision-making processes. Reliability allows decision-makers to have confidence in the information and data they are using to evaluate and assess various factors. It reduces the likelihood of making decisions based on unreliable or inconsistent measurements, which could lead to poor outcomes or erroneous conclusions. In the example of measuring the efficiency of graduates, if the company relies on inconsistent or unreliable measures, it may lead to inaccurate assessments of the graduates' abilities. Choosing the most reliable measure, whether it's based on course grades or aptitude test scores, ensures that decision-making is based on solid and consistent information. Validity refers to the extent to which a measurement accurately measures what it intends to measure. In the context of personnel selection and job performance, validity is concerned with how well a measure predicts or correlates with job performance. Criterion-related validation is a method used to establish the validity of a personnel selection measure. It involves demonstrating a substantial correlation between test scores obtained from the measure and job performance scores. This correlation indicates that performance on the measure is related to performance on the job. The validity coefficient is a statistical measure that quantifies the strength and direction of the relationship between test scores and job performance scores. It ranges from 1.0 to plus 1.0, with a value of 1.0 indicating a perfect positive relationship and 1.0 indicating a perfect negative relationship. A higher validity coefficient suggests a stronger relationship between the measure and job performance, indicating higher predictive validity. Predictive validation is a type of criterion-related validity study that aims to establish an empirical relationship between applicants' test scores and their eventual performance on the job. This study involves administering a test to job applicants and then tracking their performance on the job over time. By examining the correlation between test scores and subsequent job performance, predictive validation provides evidence of the measure's ability to predict future job success. Concurrent validation is another type of criterion-related validity study. In this study, the test is administered to individuals who are currently in the job, and their test scores are correlated with existing measures of their performance on the job. This type of validation provides evidence of the measure's ability to differentiate between high and low performers in the current workforce. Overall, criterion-related validity studies, including predictive and concurrent validation, are important for establishing the validity of personnel selection methods. By demonstrating significant correlations between test scores and job performance scores, these studies provide evidence that the measure accurately predicts or relates to job performance. Validity is crucial for ensuring that selection measures effectively assess the qualities and skills required for successful job performance. This diagram illustrates the steps involved in concurrent validation. Concurrent validation is a method used to assess the job performance of current employees by comparing their performance to their scores on a job-related attribute. The attribute can be anything that is relevant to the job, such as a personality trait, skill, or knowledge. The steps involved in concurrent validation are as follows. Measure all current job incumbents on the attribute. This can be done using a variety of methods, such as surveys, tests, or interviews. Measure all current job incumbents' performance. This can be done using a variety of methods, such as performance reviews, sales data, or customer satisfaction surveys. Obtain a correlation between these two sets of numbers. The correlation coefficient is a statistical measure that indicates the strength and direction of the relationship between two variables. In this case, the correlation coefficient will indicate whether there is a positive or negative relationship between job incumbent scores on the attribute and their job performance. If the correlation coefficient is positive, it means that there is a positive relationship between job incumbent scores on the attribute and their job performance. This means that job incumbents who score higher on the attribute tend to also have higher job performance. If the correlation coefficient is negative, it means that there is a negative relationship between job incumbent scores on the attribute and their job performance. This means that job incumbents who score higher on the attribute tend to also have lower job performance. Concurrent validation can be a useful tool for identifying which attributes are most important for job performance. It can also be used to develop selection tests and training programs. However, it is important to note that concurrent validation does not prove that the attribute causes job performance. It is possible that there is another variable that is causing both the attribute and the job performance. This flowchart is explaining the process of predictive validation, which is a method of assessing the validity of a selection test by comparing the test scores of applicants with their job performance ratings after they are hired. The flowchart shows the following steps. Measure all job applicants on attribute. This means to administer the selection test to the potential workers and obtain their scores on the attribute that is supposed to predict job performance, e.g., cognitive ability, personality, etc. Hire some applicants and reject others. This means to select some candidates based on the test scores and other criteria, and reject the rest. Wait for some time period. This means to allow the newly hired workers to perform their jobs for a certain amount of time, e.g., 6 months, 1 year, etc. Measure all newly hired job incumbents' performance. This means to evaluate the actual work outcomes of the new workers using some criteria, e.g., supervisor ratings, productivity, etc. Obtain correlation between these two sets of numbers. This means to calculate the statistical relationship between the test scores and the performance ratings, which indicates how well the test predicts job performance. A high correlation means a high validity, and vice versa. As you see, this table shows the relationship between sample size and required correlation. It shows how many participants you need in your study to find a statistically significant correlation between two variables, depending on how strong that correlation is. For example, if you have a sample size of 20, you would need a correlation of at least 0.42 to be statistically significant. This means that there is a less than 5% chance that the observed correlation is due to chance. On the other hand, if you have a sample size of 100, you would only need a correlation of 0.19 to be statistically significant. This is because with a larger sample size, you are more likely to detect even small correlations. The table is based on a power of 0.8 and a significance level of 0.05. These are common values to use in statistical tests, but you can choose different values depending on your specific research question. Content validation is a method used to establish the validity of a test or assessment by ensuring that the items, questions, or problems posed by the test are representative of the situations or problems that occur on the job. This validation strategy is particularly useful when sample sizes are small. In content validation, expert judgment plays a crucial role in determining the appropriateness of the test items. Experts in the field or job domain evaluate the test and assess whether the content adequately reflects the knowledge, skills, or abilities required for successful job performance. The goal is to demonstrate that the test presents a representative sample of the situations or problems that employees encounter in their job roles. Content validation can be achieved through various means, including simulations and computer-based role-playing games. These methods provide applicants with realistic scenarios that simulate job-related situations. By assessing how well applicants perform in these simulated situations, their knowledge, skills, or abilities can be evaluated. One advantage of content validation is that it can be effective in small sample settings where there may not be a sufficient number of participants to conduct other types of validation studies, such as criterion-related validation. However, content validation does have limitations. First, it assumes that individuals being hired must already possess the necessary knowledge, skills, or abilities at the time of hiring. It does not account for the potential for individuals to develop or acquire these qualities after being hired. Second, content validation heavily relies on subjective judgment, which can introduce bias or inconsistency. To mitigate this, it is important to minimize subjective inference on the part of the judges. Clear and observable behaviors should be the basis for their ratings, avoiding excessive reliance on subjective interpretations. Overall, content validation is a valuable strategy for establishing the validity of a test or assessment when sample sizes are small. It emphasizes the importance of aligning the test content with the job requirements and ensuring that applicants are exposed to situations similar to those they would encounter in the actual job. Generalizability refers to the degree to which the validity of a selection method established in one context can be extended to other contexts. It involves determining whether the findings and conclusions derived from a validation study can be applied to different situations or populations. When a measurement has been shown to have validity and reliability in a specific context, and there is a match between test scores and performance evaluations, it is possible to generalize the validity of the measurement to other similar contexts. This means that if an employee occupies different positions that require the same characteristic that was measured and demonstrated its validity and reliability, there may not be a need to retest or compare performance. The assumption is that if the jobs are similar and require the same skills and attributes, the measurement will still hold its validity. For example, if a company sells different products in different stores, and the jobs in these stores require the same qualities and skills, there may not be a need to retest or measure employee efficiency. The company can rely on the validity of the previous measurement and assume that it applies to the new context as well. Validity generalization is a concept that suggests that test validity often extends across different situations and subgroups. It serves as an alternative for validating selection methods when conducting criterion-related or content validation studies is not feasible. Validity generalization involves a three-step process. Provide evidence from previous criterion-related validity studies. The company presents evidence from previous studies that demonstrate the validity of a specific test as a predictor for a specific job in other situations. Conduct a job analysis. The company performs a job analysis to document that the job being filled is similar to the job that has already been validated in other contexts. This ensures that the characteristics and requirements of the jobs align. Use a similar or identical test. If the company can show that it uses a test that is the same as or similar to the one used in the validated setting, the validity can be generalized from the first context to the new context. It's important to note that the generalizability of validity depends on the similarities between the original and new contexts. The more similar the jobs or situations are, the higher the likelihood of generalizing the validity. Complex jobs tend to have higher validity for many tests, while correlations may vary as one goes across widely different kinds of jobs. Utility refers to the degree to which the information provided by selection methods enhances the effectiveness of selecting personnel in an organization. It focuses on the practical value and impact of using specific selection methods to make informed decisions about hiring or promoting individuals. Several factors impact the utility of selection methods, including 1. Reliability. Reliability refers to the consistency and stability of measurement. A selection method that produces consistent results over time and across different raters or conditions is more reliable. Higher reliability increases the utility of the method by providing more trustworthy and dependable information for decision-making. 2. Validity. Validity refers to the extent to which a selection method measures what it intends to measure and accurately predicts job performance. A valid selection method is one that accurately identifies individuals who are likely to succeed in the job. High validity enhances the utility of the selection method by increasing the chances of selecting candidates who will perform well on the job. 3. Generalizability. Generalizability refers to the extent to which the findings and conclusions drawn from a selection method in one context can be applied to other similar contexts. If a selection method demonstrates generalizability across different jobs, organizations, or populations, it increases its utility by providing valuable information that can be utilized in various settings. 4. Job performance distribution. Job performance often follows a power law distribution, where a small number of individuals contribute disproportionately to organizational success. Understanding this distribution can impact utility by focusing selection efforts on identifying and selecting high-performing individuals who will have a significant impact on organizational outcomes. While reliability, validity, and generalizability are important factors that contribute to utility, other contextual factors can also influence the usefulness of selection methods. These factors may include legal considerations, cost-effectiveness, the availability of resources and expertise, organizational culture, and the specific job requirements or demands. It's important to note that maximizing utility in selection methods requires a comprehensive understanding of the specific organizational context and aligning selection practices with the organization's goals, values, and constraints. A well-designed selection process that balances reliability, validity, generalizability, and context-specific factors can significantly enhance the effectiveness of selecting personnel and contribute to organizational success. The final standard to which any selection method should adhere is legality. It is imperative for employers to ensure that their selection methods comply with existing laws and legal precedents. The federal legislations, including the Civil Rights Act of 1991, the Age Discrimination in Employment Act of 1967, and the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, are crucial in prohibiting discrimination and promoting equal employment opportunities. Employers must understand and abide by the provisions outlined in these laws when designing and implementing their selection methods. Failure to comply with legal requirements can have severe consequences for employers. When taken to court for illegal discrimination, employers may face significant financial costs associated with lawsuits, settlements, and potential awards to affected individuals. Additionally, the reputation of the employer as a fair and inclusive workplace may be tarnished, making it more challenging to attract and retain top talent. This can hinder recruitment efforts and limit the organization's growth potential. To ensure legal compliance in selection methods, employers should regularly review their practices, policies, and procedures. It is crucial to train employees involved in the selection process on the legal requirements and best practices for avoiding discriminatory practices, seeking legal counsel, and conducting periodic audits of selection methods can also help identify and address any potential issues or areas of non-compliance. Okay, now we need to talk about types of selection methods. As you see, we have interviews, references, application blanks, background checks, physical ability tests, cognitive ability tests, personality inventories, work samples, honesty tests, and drug tests. A selection interview is a form of dialogue initiated by one or more individuals to gather information and evaluate the qualifications of an applicant for employment. It is a widely used method in organizations to assess candidates for job positions. During the interview, the interviewers engage in a conversation with the applicant, asking questions and discussing relevant topics to gather information about the applicant's skills, experiences, knowledge, and suitability for the job. Selection interviews are popular because they allow for direct interaction between the interviewer and the applicant, providing an opportunity to assess not only the applicant's qualifications on paper, but also their interpersonal skills, communication abilities, and overall fit for the organization. However, despite their widespread use, research has shown that selection interviews can have limitations and potential drawbacks. Without proper care, interviews can be unreliable, meaning that different interviewers may evaluate the same candidate differently, leading to inconsistent results. This can undermine the overall effectiveness and fairness of the interview process. Additionally, interviews can be low in validity, which refers to the extent to which the interview accurately predicts job performance. Unstructured or loosely structured interviews, in particular, can be less effective in assessing candidates' qualifications and job-related capabilities compared to more standardized approaches. There is also a risk of bias in interviews, both conscious and unconscious. Interviewers may inadvertently favor candidates who share similar backgrounds, experiences, or characteristics, leading to discrimination or disadvantage for other applicants. This bias can occur due to subjective judgments, personal preferences, or stereotypes. When conducting interviews, it is beneficial for interviewers to ask questions that deal with specific situations likely to arise in the job and use the responses to assess how the candidate would handle those situations. These types of situational interview questions have been found to have high predictive validity, meaning they can effectively predict future job performance. Some interview questions are experience-based, where the applicant is asked to share a past experience they had when confronted with a particular situation. These questions aim to understand how the candidate has handled similar situations in the past, providing insights into their abilities and problem-solving skills. In contrast, future-oriented interview questions focus more on the applicant's potential and their ability to adapt to new situations. Employers using future-oriented questions prioritize a candidate's potential for growth and development, rather than solely relying on their past experience. They may value on-the-job training tailored to their specific organizational needs over years of experience in unrelated contexts. To enhance objectivity and minimize subjective errors, it is advisable to involve multiple interviewers in the process. These interviewers should receive training to ensure consistency and fairness in their evaluations. One approach some companies adopt is conducting digitally taped interviews, where the interviews are recorded and the recording files are shared among interviewers for assessment. This allows multiple perspectives on the candidate's performance and reduces potential biases. While digital interviews provide convenience and allow for wider participation, some employers find that the lack of true interaction in recorded videos limits their value. In such cases, face-to-face interactive technologies like Skype or other video conferencing tools can be used to conduct virtual interviews, enabling real-time communication and interaction even over long distances. By using situational questions, considering both past experiences and future potential, involving multiple trained interviewers, and utilizing appropriate interview technologies, organizations can enhance the reliability, objectivity, and effectiveness of the interview process. Okay. The last selection methods we will talk about is gathering background information on applicants before conducting interviews. One common method is soliciting information through reference checks. Employers reach out to individuals who know the candidate, such as previous employers or colleagues, to gather insights about the candidate's past performance, work ethic, and other relevant qualities. In addition to external references, employers can also collect background information directly from applicants themselves. This can be done through application forms, resumes, or self-disclosure forms. Collecting this information is relatively low cost and can provide valuable insights into an applicant's education, work experience, skills, and qualifications. When used in conjunction with a well-designed follow-up interview, this background information can enhance the utility of the interview process. The interview can focus on complementing the biographical data rather than duplicating it, allowing for a more in-depth exploration of the candidate's suitability for the job. However, it's important to be aware of potential challenges associated with biographical data. One major concern is the possibility of applicants misrepresenting themselves. Research suggests that a significant portion of job applications, over 80% according to some studies, contain misleading or false information. This highlights the need for caution and thorough verification of the information provided by applicants. Relying solely on biographical data without any in-person interaction or verification can indeed be a risky proposition. Hiring decisions made without seeing the applicants firsthand may lead to incorrect assessments and potential mismatches between the candidate and the job requirements. To mitigate these risks, employers should adopt a comprehensive approach that includes reference checks, thorough verification of information, and most importantly, follow-up interviews to assess the candidate's qualifications, skills, and fit for the organization. This combination of methods helps to minimize the chances of misrepresentation and make more informed hiring decisions.
Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe to channel.